Trial
First,
version.
I will tell you a few words about the context of this initiative. So, since 2012, at the first meeting of the GFCM Black Sea Working Group, it was concluded that the mariculture is a development priority for our Black Sea region. The main features identified at this meeting were heterogeneous development of the various regions in the Black Sea, for example, Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania. We identified some constraints related to the environmental factors, namely climate, salinity variation, exposed coastline, lack of sheltered areas in some places, some difficulties in integrating the marine aquaculture with other uses of the marine and coastal environment, and the urgent need to implement an appropriate legislative framework with some clear certification procedures for marine aquaculture products. I will go with this subject a little bit further in my presentation. However, the good news were that the area has a lot of expertise regarding the artificial reproduction and disease management, so it must be stimulated to develop. Regarding the establishment, in the mentioned context, our institute has stated the willingness to take over this coordination and hosting of the Demonstrative Aquaculture Center in Constanta. So, at the meeting on this initiative that took place in September 2017 in Constanta, it was decided that the National Institute for Marine Research and Development in Constanta will coordinate a demonstration production module for the cultivation of mussels, and the Central Fisheries Research Institute in Trabzon, Turkey, will host the second ADC, a demonstrative module for the growing and repeated breeding of turbot and trout. I will explain some of the arguments for selecting our institution. We have qualified staff. The specialists that work here at the Institute have knowledge and practical experience in marine aquaculture. We are skilled in the knowledge of biology, ecology, and ethology of main species of invertebrates and also marine fish. And we have acquired experience through the projects developed in the past and that are ongoing right now on fish species having commercial interests, mugilide, trout, turbot, sturgeon, but also in the invertebrates area, such as shrimp and mollusks, both oysters and mussels. We have an infrastructure. Our headquarters have, of course, offices, experimental tanks, a lot of laboratories with high performance equipment for sample processing and analytical investigations. We have marine aquaculture laboratory, laboratory for the study of living marine resources, and very important, a research vessel for collecting fisheries and fishery and oceanographic data, very important for the development of any activity in the sea. So, as a result, a Black Sea ADC focused technical meeting was held in Trabzon in March 2018, presenting the production demonstration module for the cultivation of mussels, turbot, and trout. At this meeting, we discussed a lot of possible training programs and we identified the future structure of the ADC focal points in Constanta and in Trabzon. A few words about the concept of the Shellfish Aquaculture Demonstrative Center. Our module is based on the well-known long line technology, which comprises two components: a long line system on sea floats and some shore facilities, our analytical laboratories within the institute, and a purification system for training purpose. Our demonstration module forms the basis of training activities that are developed here in the center and cover all aspects of the production cycle of mussels. The biology and ecology of Mytilus galloprovincialis, the design and construction of the long line system, mussel growth and handling technologies, processing and purification technologies, and of course production management systems.
Trial version.
What are our target groups and beneficiaries? First of all, the private sector, the small investors with low investment potential, small entrepreneurs, and including fishermen that are trying to reconvert in this activity. But also national and local authorities that are involved in the planning, management, and control of aquaculture. They, by attending our courses, they can gain expertise and knowledge in their field of activity. Public institutions and NGOs, because we have to raise the awareness of the importance and relevance of aquaculture for this region, and national and international research institutions that we collaborate. Here is the ADC team, our coordinators from the GFCM and some of our colleagues. But I have to mention that at every training session, we have the support of all institutes, departments, and experts that are very proud of this initiative and give us all their help. So until now, we have two demonstrative trainings. The first one was held in September 2018, of course in Constanta at our institute. We had 5 training theory and hands-on practice modules. I will go one by one. The first one, muscle biology. We approached subjects like the life cycle, growth and reproduction of muscles, but also at the practical sessions, we made some anatomy dissection of these organisms. We made filtration rate estimations and other laboratory experiments. The second module, the cultivation systems, we spoke about system installation, the growing techniques, production, planning, and farm development. And in the practical part, we made some small scale and large scale industrial scale farm visits, and we had some practical experience there. The module concerning the legislation and licensing dealt with the EU Legislative Hygiene Directive, and we talked also about the classification of the production areas. The module on monitoring services dealt with the microbiology, algal blooms, established the bivalve zones, and in practice, we made water sampling for the very important E. coli estimation. We made toxic algae identification and production capacity estimation. Last but not least, post-harvesting technology and quality management module, where we discussed the European seafood legislation, the design of the depuration tanks, expedition and quality management of the shellfish products, and very important HACCP development. You can see some pictures, some aspects of the first training. We have 11 participants from 5 Black Sea riparian countries, namely 2 from Ukraine, 3 from Romania, 1 from Bulgaria, 2 from Turkey, and 3 from Georgia. The second training took place in May 2019, also here in Constanta. We had 7 theory and hands-on practice modules. The first one, of course, is a mandatory for all training, because muscle biology and ecology forms the basics of other modules, and also the legislative framework is a module that must be integrated in every training. So the newly introduced modules were the microbial monitoring and harmful algal blooms. But most important, the center of this training was the muscle pathology and diseases. We discussed about shellfish pathology with focus on virology, on pathology of the shellfish and impact on the mussel quality.
Trial version
Module was the fisheries and aquaculture under the MSP planning, and we also approached the allocated zones for aquaculture subject, very important tool for the development of this activity. And very important, the mussel safety and quality management, the implementation of the HACCP principles. And the last module were the country reports, where we shared experience because we've had 10 participants, as you can see in the pictures, 10 participants from all the Black Sea riparian countries. I want to mention the presence of the Russian Federation. We're very glad for this attendance. And besides the trainings that will continue for sure, actually this happening right now is the third training, right? We had some local initiatives to move things in this domain. I want to present you the very important accomplishment of starting the microbiological classification procedure in Romania. Along with the lack of a legislative framework to allow the concession of the water, a major problem that prevented both the cultivation and the harvesting of bivalves from the natural environment in Romania was the lack of microbiological classification of the Black Sea waters, as required by Regulation 627 in 2019. But following the numerous interventions made by our institute through the ADC since June 2019 with the support of the GFCM, at the National Sanitary, Veterinary and Food Safety Authority, which is the competent authority in applying the regulation in Romania. Also, we made interventions at the National Agency for Fisheries and Aquaculture, at the Ministry of the Environment, as well as at the Institute of Diagnosis and Animal Health. We moved the things by starting the interministerial agreement for the classification of production and laying areas of live bivalve mollusks. We had our ADC team, but with the help of other experts from my institute, we had essential contributions to the microbiological classification procedure. We elaborated within our Aquaculture Demonstrative Center during January-March 2020 the documentary Shoreline and Hydrodynamic Survey in order to establish and microbiologically classify the areas of production and relaying of live bivalve mollusks in the Romanian Black Sea sector. We made this document available to the competent authority, namely the ANSVSA I mentioned before, so they can effectively start the sampling procedure. Also, we accomplished the shoreline survey, and our ADC experts confirmed in the field the presence of the potential sources of contamination that were identified in the documentary. Following these surveys, in March this year in Constanta, the representatives of our institute, of the National Sanitary, Veterinary and Food Safety Authority, Sanitary Veterinary Directorates in Constanta and of all the agencies mentioned before that are involved in this procedure, but as well as of Fishermen's Association, met at the headquarters of Constanta Sanitary Veterinary Directorate, and we effectively started the microbiological classification of the areas of production and relaying of live bivalve mollusks. During this meeting, the contamination sources identified in the documentary analysis that I told you we elaborated, we made an inventory of all possible sources of contamination. We also debated and positioned the interest areas for classification, and we set up the sampling network for the microbiological sampling. After the completion of this microbiological survey, which I have to mention that only the sanitary veterinary laboratories are accredited in Romania, By analyzing the results and corroborating them with the survey carried out by our institute in the ADC, the competent authority will be able to carry out the microbiological classification of the areas. So, what's next?
Trial version.
Our center acts as a regional hub able to respond to Black Sea countries' needs and expectations for aquaculture development. Some potential topics for future trainings could be a tailored mussel farming technology, taking into account the diverse ecological and environmental conditions in the Black Sea area. But also, we can investigate the potential of new species of shellfish for aquaculture in our region. Our future needs would be support for involving experienced foreign lecturers during trainings, involving successful farmers and developers in trainings as good practice examples, and also GFCM to provide lobbying with our Romanian authorities for settling the water concession issue, which I will refer to right now. A major drawback, at least in our country, both for research, but to a greater extent for the business environment, is lack of an adequate legislative framework which to allow the concession of the water in order to locate the aquaculture facilities. Because the projects implemented with European funds require the existence of such a document for a reasonable period of time, 4 or 5 years, depending on the funding scheme. Our institute, by the virtue of operating the ADC under the aegis of GFCM, obtained funding from the above-mentioned body for development of a pilot aquaculture mussel farm, which will serve as an example of good practices. But the implementation of this decision was stopped exactly by the lack of the aforementioned legislation. So, our institute, through the ADC, performs sustained efforts to competent authorities to solve this issue by setting up a new Romanian water law, which, together with the classification of waters already accomplished, would concretely support the development of shellfish mariculture in the area. So this was my presentation. I will stop now. I'll wait for all your comments or questions or suggestions on the email. So I will pass the floor now to online floor